Leah Krafft is with us. She's a domestic marketing coordinator for Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, we all know as ASMI. Good to see you here with us. We have a whole team of ASMI behind her as well that we've had many conversations here leading up to this. And they brought Thea Thomas to us, who's an Alaskan fisherman. And she likes the term fisherman, right? Correct, Thea? Yeah. So she has been fishing for quite a while in the basically in the Prince William Sound and Copper River, which is what you all know it as. Cordova, for those of you that went with us on the trip to Alaska a few years ago, you were actually in Cordova, where we spent some time. Lovely, beautiful, and awesome, and learned so much there. Maria Molde will be with us. She's a client solution specialist at Datassential, but also you guys all know her very well, been a speaker at many of our events and on several of our past webinars, who will share some of the trend information with us. And then Keith Brunell is the president of ICCA, but more importantly, that doesn't pay so well. So his real money comes as a director of food and beverage from Nordstrom's Restaurant Division. So he'll talk to us about what they're doing. They're one of the leaders in menuing Alaskan seafood in particular, and actually branding it on the menu. And that's been a big part of their success. So Leah, let's start off with you. Talk to us a little bit about ASMI, and most importantly, it's like what our members can get from you as far as benefits and things that you offer to help them in being, a little more, let's say, aggressive on, on menuing seafood in particular, Alaska product.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin, and thanks so much for the opportunity to talk on the webinar today. I just wanted to take a quick second just to reintroduce myself, since I am pretty new to the food service coordinator position at ASMI. I have been with ASMI for about 3 years, but just stepped into this new role a few months ago and couldn't be more excited to be working with food service professionals and doing what I can to help promote Alaska seafood. My background's in the wine industry. I actually lived in Oregon and Portland and worked at a winery. Kevin, you and I talked about Slocalblosser, which is where for many years. So it's been really awesome to come back to Alaska, where I'm born and raised. I grew up here in Juneau, sport fishing with my family. So just the ability to work in the seafood industry, having grown up in Alaska, it's such an honor. So really happy to be a part of ASMI. It's such a cool organization. Just a little bit about ASMI. We're so fortunate here in Alaska to have so many awesome species of seafood to promote and share with the world. I mean, we're so lucky that just amazing, delicious food comes from our backyard, and everything from 5 species of salmon to all kinds of shellfish, king crab, Dungeness crab, and scallops. We have so many types of amazing white fish that come out of Alaskan waters, pollock, cod, halibut, sablefish, rockfish, so many species to talk about. And so ASMI as an organization is a public-private partnership. We're actually part of the state of Alaska, underneath the state of Alaska government, actually. So we work as the marketing arm for the commercial fishing industry. And it's really an honor to represent an industry that employs over 50,000 people in the state. And, the fishing industry in Alaska supports so many coastal communities, and there's just generations of families who have grown up in this industry. So it feels really awesome to be a part of it. And ASMI specifically provides marketing materials to help operators, such as the members from ICCA and GCIA, to help promote Alaska seafood. And what we can offer is, everything from inspirational recipes to nutritional information. We've got a beautiful collection of photo assets and video assets that we're more than willing to share to help any type of promotion with different operators around the country. So we want to really share that we're available to help in whatever way that we can to help promote Alaska seafood. We also have funding opportunities available that we're more than happy to talk about for different operators. So that's just kind of a taste of what we have to offer. And like I said, we're here to help in any way that we can, get the word out about Alaska seafood and talk about the sustainability of Alaska seafood. So yeah, we're here as a resource and happy to help.
Well, sustainability is certainly a great message to, all consumers, but most importantly, I think the younger consumer group. I mean, it's an important thing to talk about and for our chains to actually promote, and you guys are the absolute, best at it around the world. Talk to us for a second, before we go to Thea, about, I know Lent is huge, right? So talk to us about Lent, and it seems this year there's like the chicken war that happened is happening in fish sandwiches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of talk about fish sandwiches and, flounder as a new type of fish sandwich that's being offered. A lot of great pollock options. Lent is definitely the busiest time for the Alaska seafood industry. And we provide a lot of resources to different operators around the Lent season and lots of limited time offerings and promotions. And that's kind of our busy season for sure.
So, I know a lot of that product ends up being frozen. I know Taya will get into more of that about the processing, how far it's come, over this past decade or couple of decades, but also, as you're just coming into season right now, right, with halibut just started and salmon will be coming up, fairly soon. But is there any kind of product right now that, like pollock, are there any fresh products that are available for the Lenten season? Or is it predominantly something where you have to look to the frozen market?
Yeah, we definitely focus mainly on frozen for Lent. And yeah, like you mentioned, frozen, the technology there has come so far. And we always get really excited to talk about just the quality of the frozen product that comes out of Alaska. As we were talking about before, there is some fresh halibut out there. But yeah, frozen product is really what we like to talk about. And, the sustainability of that and just how that helps in the market with frozen product. We really love talking about it. And, Keith can talk a little bit more about the benefits of frozen product at his operation. And, we just sing the praises of how far the technology's come with frozen fish.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. And everybody on here, most all of our members for sure, and sponsors, most of them who've been with us forever, have seen, because we've done the fresh versus frozen tasting side by side. I started doing that with the CIA at Greystone many, many, many years ago. And it's amazing how many times the frozen product actually won over fresh. And I think people were shocked when they hear that. I don't know if the consumers understand that. I think maybe that's part of our role, is the consumers understand that the quality of frozen can be every bit as good, if not better, than fresh product, because fresh can sometimes not be handled properly. And the frozen actually is fresher than fresh, if that's such a term.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, frozen fresh, it's at the peak freshness when it's frozen. So getting the best quality product when it's frozen at peak freshness. So
yes, unfortunately, salmon and seafood doesn't age like a great steak or a whole cut meat. So it decomposes rather quickly. So I think, we'll talk more about that later. But the technology's come so far in terms of how it's processed.
No, it's amazing. So cool. With that, let's go to Taya. Taya is going to talk to us today about her life, right? Her day-to-day life out fishing. So let's just jump right in and talk to us about you and your life and what you've been doing all these years. And I think it's exciting.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to speak to you and the chefs today. I mean, there's such a key part of this industry as we're catching and selling, Alaska seafood. The chefs add so much to that process with new recipes and everything. But anyway, my name is Thea Thomas. I am a commercial fisherman from Cordova, Alaska. I've been fishing there since the mid-'80s. Which is quite a long time now. I first went up there as a college student, which a lot of college kids did in the 70s and 80s, and worked in a processing plant. And then I just fell in love with it, and I've been there ever since. And at first I worked as a biologist, a fisheries biologist with the Department of Fish and Game. And then I bought my first boat in 1987 and bought a gillnet permit and have been gillnetting on the Copper River ever since then. And over the years, I've done fisheries elsewhere in the state, Bristol Bay, Togiak. And just recently I bought some halibut quota, which is exciting for me to get into a new fishery. So, yeah. And for me, I mean, so much of it has been the lifestyle, being my own boss. When I go to work, I go out driving my boat on the ocean, and it's fabulously beautiful. Alaska is stunning in the summer, and that's where I work. And also, part of what I've been involved in, is not just the catching of fish. It's also, I've worked with different marketing groups over the years and worked with different entities working on fisheries regulations, served on the different boards over the years. So, that's been an important part, just to keep the industry healthy and alive, for the fishermen, for the coastal communities. It's always, there's a lot of work to be done there. And, the other thing that I think has been really important for me, I was one of the first fishermen in Cordova to start using slush bags. Before it was really even talked about, we started bleeding our fish and slushing them, which these are big waterproof bags where we add ice and seawater, and the fish are sort of suspended in this slushy ice water. And it's some of the best quality, because we believe that as soon as the fish comes out of the water, the quality starts to deteriorate. So anything we can do to keep it, the highest quality possible, is the best. So, I've been bleeding and slush icing my fish for decades now, probably. And yeah, so that's always something we're talking about is, getting that quality message out to the fishermen, because that's where it starts, and then from the fishermen to the tenders and then to the processors and kind of all down the line. So it starts with us. So that's been a sort of an important part of, I feel like, kind of what I've done over the years. Yeah. And in terms of sustainability, I guess one thing I would like to say is, just for like on the Copper River, I tell this to people and they sometimes don't believe me, but every fish is counted, whether it's caught or it goes up the river, every fish is counted. So, everything is done to make sure that run is sustainable for generations to come. So we're always certain that enough fish are going to get up the river to sustain the run. And, Alaska has done so well in managing its fisheries over the years. It's being pretty much held up as the gold standard, I think, around the world as the best fisheries management there is. And about 5 years ago or 7 years ago, I'm not exactly sure, ASMI was a big part of this effort to develop our own sustainability program, which I'm so glad they did, the Responsible Fisheries Management certification program. And what that does is that looks at every single fishery in the state and makes sure that fishery has been managed in a sustainable way. And then it gets this stamp. Yes, that's a responsible fishery. And so ASMI's been a big part of that. And I think it's been a great program over the years. And yeah, so I don't know if you have any questions.
On that too. I mean, talk a little bit more about the processing, because I love that idea about the bag. So basically the salmon's still alive when it's in that slush of ice and seawater, right?
Yeah, so, it even starts before that. So I make a set with my gill net and the fish swim in and get caught. And what I try and do is I try and get those fish out of the water while they're still alive. So part of the whole quality message for fishermen is make short sets, get those fish out of the water because they have to be alive in order to bleed them. And a bled fish, they've done all sorts of studies. ASMI has been part of this, so many studies over the years. It has a much longer shelf life if it's been bled properly. So my goal is to get that fish out while it's still alive, bleed it, leave it on deck for a few minutes to, let it bleed, and then immediately put it in the slush ice. And then sort of the next goal is to get that fish delivered quickly. I don't want to hold it on my boat because, the ice is warming up. I mean, it's all, kind of a time, the clock is ticking. So if I can deliver quickly, then I put it on board a tender that has refrigerated seawater. And then the quality is, you're pretty sure as long as that RSW is working, the refrigerated seawater system, that quality is being held at a pretty good level. And so I feel like I've done my part then. I've caught the fish quickly, I've bled it, I've iced it, I've delivered it, and then the tender takes it into the processing plant.
That's cool. And then, so on any given day, especially when a Copper River, of course, we all know the notoriety of Copper River and how crazy that is in the first days, typically middle of May, right? And I assume you're planning for that same time of the year, but it's got to be. So the tenders, what's life like on their boat? Is it crazy?
Oh my God. It is a crazy time of year, but I absolutely love it. I mean, there's so much energy in town, all these people coming in, getting their boats ready, getting all, excited. And then one thing that's kind of cool from Cordova, you can actually see the whole fleet leaving. They leave town. They all kind of head the same direction, and there's lots of interest from the buyers. So we start hearing, way ahead of time, when's the first opener? When's it going to get into town? Some of the fish is flown right away down to Seattle. They for many years have had this first fish event at SeaTac, which Alaska Airlines has been part of, which is really exciting. So this fish some of it gets, that's the crazy part. Some of the buyers will hire helicopters. They'll actually helicopter out, go straight to the boat. The fish is caught, goes straight into the helicopter, whisked away, straight down to some restaurant somewhere, some to New York even at times. It's gone right away. So yeah, there's lots of great energy for those first few openers.
What's really cool is typically the openers right around the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago. And we've done many promotional events over my career in Chicago with some of the first fish that comes off. Okay, and it's just really exciting, and it's a great time to actually do it because the city is filled with industry people who understand, the quality of it and the excitement around it and all of that. So that's really cool. Really cool. Talk to me a little bit too about the community itself. I mean, the fishing community is extremely tight. I'm sure you've got your 10%, right? Like in everything in life, but for the most part, it's really a tight community, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Cordova, it's a small coastal community. There are no roads, so you cannot drive to Cordova. You have to fly in, or you can take a boat. Those are your only two choices. And so it's very remote. It's just nestled at the foot of these mountains. So it's pretty stunningly beautiful. And so, yeah, I mean, when I'm out fishing, of course, we know that the Coast Guard's out there, but chances are they're not going to get to me in time if something happens. It's my fellow fishermen that are going to help me. So there's a lot of camaraderie. Besides, there's a lot of competition, of course, but there's also a lot of camaraderie. And that's, been a big part of it for me over the years, being part of this group that, we're out there sometimes in horrendous weather. We have to cross the bar. The Copper River is just a series of bars where the ocean swell meets the river current, and there's big seas, and we have to go outside the bar to fish, and then we have to get back inside the bar. So there's lots of times where it's very dangerous and we lose boats. So, people watch out for each other. And I think that's true, of the community itself. It's a pretty tight-knit community.
That's awesome. And one thing I'll say too, and I just wrote a note to myself here, is we have a video on ICCA's website of when we were in Alaska, which shows Cordova because we did travel there. We actually went to a glacier from there, which was amazing. It was really just one of the most incredible experiences really I've ever seen. And so what I'll do when we're done with this, I'll actually get on our websites and move the videos up because our videos are in chronological order. So mostly you've got these 22 webinars that we've done, and then you have to go back and what we've done. But I can actually take that, move it back up, and I'll do that when we're done here. And I'll put it on GCIA's website as well, so you guys can see and experience what we're talking about today. But Mike also has a short video here that's about Taya. She's quite the star, by the way, in Alaska. And so he's got a little short video that we're going to share with you now.
My name is Taya Thomas. I came up here to work as a biologist, and then I decided what I really want to do is go fishing. So I bought a boat and permit. It's been the most wonderful way to earn a living, to work out in nature. These salmon are spectacular. We are held up as the gold standard in the world for well-managed, sustainable fisheries. We've been fishing these salmon for 100 years, and the runs are as strong as ever.
Thanks, Taya. And I really appreciate that. Stick with us for a minute because we're going to go to Maria now so she can talk a little bit about trends, and then we'll end up with Keith. And then we'll come back around to questions because I know some people are asking some questions now. So Maria, let's go to Maria. I'm sorry, Maria. Marie, let's go to you.
I'm so excited next to share really why now is such an important time to be thinking about fish and seafood and menuing fish and seafood. So I wanted to set the landscape just really broadly at first, sharing, where fish and seafood kind of plays in restaurants today. So fish and seafood is found in over 88% of restaurants in the US. So that's almost every single restaurant has a fish or seafood option on the menu. What kind of goes along with that is it's a very high affinity item among consumers. So among the general population in the US, 68% of Americans love or like fish and seafood. And that's actually even skews a bit higher when we think about particular types that we know consumers here love, like a salmon, for example. We see that affinity increase even further. And then fish and seafood is also, of course, very versatile. So on the column on the right here, we can see that fish tends to be menued as an entree, which makes great sense. Most often it's found that way, followed by a combo platter. So maybe it's like two types of seafood served together. And then I thought it was interesting, Mexican entree is also high up there, and that's really dominated by fish tacos and fish burritos and tostadas and things like that. And then you can see, sandwiches and soups and rice entrees and bowls and pastas and salads. So there's really no category of the menu that fish and seafood can't play in or doesn't exist in today. Maybe except for, desserts, I guess, or beverages, but it's in every savory category. And then, as we've been in this pandemic in the past year, fish and seafood has been the number 2 item that consumers are craving from restaurants. So consumers are very used to getting their favorite fish and seafood options at restaurants, and they haven't been able to, or it hasn't been as easy to do that in the past year. So there's really right now this pent-up demand for fish and seafood. We're hearing from consumers they want to see innovation with fish and seafood. They want to be able to get, delicious fish dishes or see, cool new flavors or formats with fish and seafood. So there's really a taste for it at the moment. And it's right alongside the interest and the craveability of fish and seafood is this growing interest in sustainability. So Kevin, you mentioned this early on in the webinar, and this is true especially for younger consumers, but it's really true broadly across our population that we're thinking more about sustainability. We understand our food choices have an impact on sustainability. And when it comes to fish and seafood, all of the options from Alaska are wild caught and sustainable, which is a tremendous asset to Alaska seafood. And we can see here in this data that wild caught has been trending at restaurants for years now. In the past decade, it's grown, and it's predicted to continue to grow as we look 4 years out or years into the future. So really important that fish and seafood is wild caught. We also know that among consumers, there's a strong preference for wild caught versus farmed seafood. So this data is very hot off the press. This is a new report from Datassential that hasn't been released yet, but we just did a report on sustainability perceptions when it comes to fish and seafood. And what we find is that 9 in 10 consumers are concerned about seafood sustainability. So in the dark green there, 48% of us are very concerned and 42% of us are somewhat concerned. So only 1 in 10 Americans is not concerned about seafood sustainability. It's like we really understand that the availability and the healthfulness of, our planet and also our favorite fish and seafood species is really impacted by sustainability. And it's something we need to be thinking about. There's a lot going on here in this chart, but I wanted to emphasize the point that sustainability is important, and as an industry, we really have a responsibility to communicate when fish and seafood is sustainable to our customers. So in this top bar chart here, we can see that, it impacts not only our restaurant choices, but at the grocery store, 86% of consumers look for seafood that's sustainable, and at restaurants, 64% of consumers say they'll find out if a restaurant serves sustainable seafood before choosing a restaurant. And then also before ordering a fish or seafood dish, they want to confirm that it's sustainable. So that's really on a lot of people's minds. And a really great thing about Alaska seafood is that an Alaska association or a wild association drives a positive perception of seafood across every type of seafood that comes from Alaska, meaning that we have done the research to position for consumers, would you prefer an Alaskan pollock or Alaskan salmon or Atlantic salmon? And Alaska wins literally every time across the board. That's consumers' preference. They understand that Alaska seafood is sustainable. They even say things as granular or specific as like, oh, well, I know the water in Alaska is very cold and clean, and I like the perception of fish coming from there. And they also like to see this logo. So the Alaska seafood logo in this slide here, 64% of consumers are more likely to purchase Alaska seafood if they see that logo on the menu. So certainly Leah and Jan and the team can help you understand how this can be used and used as a tool with menuing Alaska seafood, because the logo really brings a lot of power and helps consumers understand that Alaskan seafood is a sustainable choice. So shifting gears just a touch, we know that when consumers select fish and seafood, or certainly two of the primary reasons they like it is they love the taste and they perceive it to be healthy. So taste and healthfulness. And we know that during this pandemic, a portion of us, so 35% of us specifically, are working on leading a healthier lifestyle. So we're trying to make choices that are healthier than maybe we did, back in 2019 or before the pandemic started. So we have talked for a while about how when consumers think about making healthy choices today, they think about that in like a functional way, where they want foods and beverages to bring them a functional benefit, like do something for them. And the real buzzword right now is immunity. So we want to be healthy. We don't want to catch the virus. We want to, maintain a healthful constitution. So immunity is really important to consumers right now. And what I think is great, and what this chart is showing us, is that consumers really know what foods and dishes and nutrients are good for our immunity. So here they're telling us citrus fruits and dark leafy greens and broccoli are things that can increase our immunity, and that's true. And what I think is great is consumers also know, and what I've shaded here in blue, is the first animal product or animal protein that they think of when they think about boosting their immunity is fish and seafood. So fish comes up first, you can see, followed by yogurt, which, has the probiotic healthful halo. And they're really correct about fish. It's high in specific nutrients that are important for immunity, like omega-3s and vitamin D and vitamin E. So fish is kind of that first protein consumers think of when they want to boost their immunity. And we also know today, thinking of these healthful perceptions that we're thinking about, we're in the age of the flexitarian consumer, and so many of us want to decrease the amount of meat that we eat. And as much as we hear about plant-based eating being a trend, and certainly that's true, fish and seafood is actually the #1 way that consumers want to replace meat consumption. So if they're working on decreasing meat, they want to replace it primarily with fish and seafood. So this data is also brand new. We've asked consumers, what are you working on increasing, or what would you like to decrease in your diet? And fish and seafood is that #1 thing. So about half of the general population, what is that, 160 some million consumers, I think, want to increase their consumption of fish and seafood. That's followed then by some plant proteins, nuts and beans, chicken there, veggie burgers. And then beef and pork are those 2 protein types where, according to our data, more consumers are working on decreasing those than increasing them in their diets right now. So now is a very important time to promote and think about fish and seafood. Also, as Leah and Kevin were talking about, it's Lent. So the Lent season is an important time for fish and seafood. If you've ever wondered how many of us participate in Lent, it's 34% of Americans. So about 1/3 of us abstain from some food item during Lent. So I have a colleague who's abstaining from alcohol. She's part of that 40% there of Lent participants who abstain from alcohol. Sugar is also common, caffeine. But the most common is meat. So 59% of Lent participants are trying to abstain from meat, which is an important place for fish and seafood to come into these folks' diets. I think it's also interesting that 22% of people avoid animal byproducts. That might be something to think about if you are working on a Lent innovation, maybe in using like a mayonnaise or a bacon, or maybe bacon doesn't make as much sense, but there is 22% of people looking to avoid animal byproducts as well, in addition to meat. So I took a look at the Lent introductions in the past 5 years from top chains. And even though LTOs took a major nosedive last year during the pandemic, Lent happened really before that happened. So you can see the numbers are pretty much in line with where they were in previous years in 2020. So the blue bar here is fish limited time offers. The green one is shellfish, and the orange is Alaskan. So you can see they all have held pretty steady. In 2019, shellfish LTOs surpassed fish LTOs for the first time and the only time in the past 5 years. And then last year that flipped again. So we're seeing mostly fish LTOs during the Lent season. And when we dive into what species those are, cod is actually the predominant fish species menu during Lent. So that's the red bar there. And that's directly followed by pollock, which I have some more specific data on pollock I'll get to in a second. But cod followed by pollock, and then whitefish, which whitefish could be cod or pollock or several other varieties. So Kevin, you mentioned, the chicken sandwich wars and what could the fish sandwich wars look like. Here's a couple recent fish sandwiches and other fish LTOs that have popped up with Alaskan seafood. So this even is touching on the C-Store channel. 7-Eleven has done an Alaska pollock fish fillet sandwich. Dairy Queen has a wild Alaskan sandwich. We have 2 fish and chips options, which I'll get to the consumer ratings for those in a second. Del Taco has done a beer battered taco. So we saw Mexican entrees being common for fish. That's a great example of that. And then White Castle has done some fish nibblers featuring Alaskan pollock.
It's funny, Marie, I was just going to say to you, it's like on that front, we decided here to go out last week and actually go to quite a few of these places. to just get the fish sandwiches and try them out. I would encourage everybody to do that because it's kind of cool. And the Popeyes one too was another one that I was pleasantly surprised. It was really good.
Yeah. What was your favorite fish sandwich, Kevin?
We didn't go everywhere, so I can't say, I don't want to say that, but I would say the ones that we did, I thought the Popeyes one, was really good. And it was nice and thick, and it just had good flavor to it. But also, it's like the standard ones that have been around for a long time, you can't go wrong with, right? Everybody raves about Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King and all of those as well. So it's like, but it's kind of fun to see, during that, this time of year to see. But I love that, we did see more of fish tacos. So I think that's kind of cool to see that. And even some of the more upscale restaurants, we're doing some things that were unique this year to try to promote, Lenten dining. So that's cool. Thanks for putting that in there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. What's not to like about a fried fish sandwich? On that note, though, I think when we think of Lent, and this is true for me being from the Midwest, when I think of Lent, I think about like church fish fries. And certainly those are important and it's a very well-loved type of item. But when I looked kind of closer into our data more broadly across restaurants and what's trending with Lent and fish and seafood, it's actually a lot of these more fresh and healthful kind of high flavor, suggestive preparation methods. So that term fresh is trending with fish and seafood dishes at Lent. Roasted is trending as a preparation. Plank, which might be the cedar plank with salmon, and then a couple, grilled and wood grilled preparations are all trending in this particular season with fish and seafood entrees. So I mentioned Pollock before. We saw that it's really gaining ground. It's right behind cod when it comes to Lent LTOs. What I think is really cool is in our flavor database, which tracks consumer sentiment for anything you can eat or drink, we have a metric called the heat score, which tells us basically how quickly consumers are learning about food, like how fast awareness is growing. And within fish and seafood, Pollock is way up there when it comes to its heat score. So it's in what we call gaining fast, which means more and more people are hearing about this. They're seeing it on menus and learning about it. It's on 1% of menus now, but it's had double-digit growth in the past decade, and it's predicted to grow another 6% over the next 4 years. And on top of that, consumers love it. So 61% of people who have tried Pollock love it or like it. So that's a great fish species to be thinking about. It's a whitefish. It's from the cold, clear waters of Alaska. It's wild and sustainable. So you can see why it's growing in innovation at restaurants. And then, and I think in one of the last webinars I was part of, we talked about how spicy flavor profiles are growing. And that's true when it comes to the fish and seafood category as well. So Thai chili and sriracha and salsa verde are all spicy flavors that are trending with fish and seafood. Also a couple global flavors, yuzu and chimichurri. And then chipotle mayo and chipotle sauce are also trending, which tend to be like a schmear on a fish sandwich. And then to wrap things up, I wanted to share a couple recent fish LTOs that really performed great with consumers. So the last webinar I was part of, Shane from First Watch was on with us, and they developed this loaded smoked salmon bagel last summer. So this was an everything bagel with wild Alaska smoked sockeye salmon and pickled red onions and arugula. And these tiles might look a bit different to you. We just changed the kind of the look of our scores database. So instead of that spider chart, we have this yellow composite score, which essentially higher is better with these. Above 70 is good and above 90 is great. So you can see the smoked salmon bagel performed really great with consumers. And then we have these two fish and chips dishes. So they're both called fish and chips. They look very similar. The one from Wiener Schnitzel has panko crusted, wild caught Alaskan pollock. Logan's has a beer battered Alaskan cod. Wiener Schnitzel has French fries. Logan's has potato chips. Wiener Schnitzel has tartar sauce. Logan's has Cajun sauce. So you can see that the Wiener Schnitzel version edged out the Logan's one a bit. And, maybe it's hard to say why, that one's maybe a bit more familiar. It has the tartar sauce. It has French fries over chips. I think it's also interesting that one calls out wild caught. Logan's could have used wild caught. We know that that's a term consumers prefer. So that being said, all of these scored great and they really performed well in their consumer ratings. So that's all I have. And I'm excited to turn it back over to Keith to talk about your innovations with Alaskan seafood at Nordstrom.
Cool, thank you. And it was ironic to see kind of the Pollock as a top seller. And I look at Pollock as kind of like the chicken breast of the sea, that it's so versatile and it's got a great price point, and they were able to sell that at $5. And when you look at that value score, and then cod, which I look as kind of more premium, they had to sell it for $13. So you can see where price really drives intent there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I wanted to do is just kind of talk a little bit about, what we've done at Nordstrom over the past few years with Alaska Seafood since we started marketing it. And 5 years ago, we really made Alaska Seafood part of our menu presence and put the logo on there. The first time we've ever put a logo on all 14 of our concepts. And we added the sockeye salmon. And we do it in 6 to 7 or 8 different preparations. And I would agree that what our consumers have told us is the flavor of the product is awesome. The health and wellness halo that comes with it is great. And then there's that immunity perception that we have. And then the versatility of the product to be able to short cold smoke it, pan sear it, marinate it, all the way down to we take all the residual pieces for our e-bars. And what we do is we create a miso salmon salad that basically has miso, a little bit of yuzu, sesame aioli, and then furikake on top. So we're able to use a cold salmon salad that we feature in our snack packs for our e-bars. So we're able to use the entire piece of it. Outside of the beginning aspects of, it's a little bit more difficult to cook sockeye, but once we got it down, it's actually a lot easier. It's quicker to cook. And I think part of what we had to do is demystify how simple it is to really cook fish. And then from a halibut perspective, is our halibut presence has continued to just grow tremendously. People look at halibut as a prestigious product. You're able to get $20 to $30 a plate for halibut, whether it's in fish and chips or straight up sauteed or baked. So we've had a lot of tremendous luck with our halibut, and we've continued to expand it. It's on almost 70% of our menus now. So the only one it's not in right now is our quick service restaurants, but it's in all of our full service restaurants. And we just love the versatility of getting it frozen year round. But when it is fresh and in season, we're able to charge a premium for that and really tell the story of, hey, this is when halibut's caught. And then at the same time, we're able to say, but the way it's harvested and caught is we're able to use it year round. That goes into the sustainability, that goes into supporting the communities of Alaska and being able to tell that story. This month in particular, we created what was called Alaska Seafood Month. And what we did is created 4 or 5 dishes specifically around Alaskan seafood that our restaurants were able to run. And what we were able to do for the first time ever is really tell the Alaska seafood story on collateral material, where through QR codes, and we were able to go back in and tell the story of immunity and environmental responsibility and sustainability and some of the stewardship like Taya, and be able to tell their stories. So we were able to bring our Nordstrom consumer, who really cares about what we're doing and the impact we're having on the environment, closer to the source of food that we're serving. And it's been a really big win for us. We serve crab on our menus as well, especially the king crab. And what we've been able to do with king crab is utilize the whole leg. We use the prime part to cut and use for crab deviled eggs. And then the rest of it we use in a crab pasta. So we've really found ways to kind of maximize the potential of each species that we work with. It's been exciting. We've seen seafood sales continue to grow. We've seen people, when they came back out of the pandemic, come to our restaurant. It's one of the first things that they wanted. Like, we just saw it like skyrocket. So we're happy where we're at with the program, what it's delivered in terms of messaging and flavor to our consumer. And then the story we're able to tell through our Nordstrom restaurant group.
That's great. That's great, Keith. Hey, why don't you talk a little bit too? You had something you said about, presence versus purpose and what you're looking at and how you inspire your staff. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so we're now being a food and beverage director and working hand in hand with Katie, who is our new corporate chef, is we're really trying to tell our story at Nordstrom about we don't have a big marketing team, but we're now interacting with our marketing team for the retail side. So what we're trying to say is that our presence is really about our people and our product. We believe we have some of the best products in the United States, and we believe we have some of the best people who produce it. And then our purpose is really how do we become more involved in our communities to be able to tell our story about our presence, people, and product. But more importantly is do a better job of telling our corporate social responsibility story in the big network of what we call JWN, the Nordstrom family. So we're 3% of Nordstrom's total sales. But we believe our story is 100% of the picture. So we're now leveraging how we're able to tell that story to all 50,000 employees through communication and internal communication. So this is just the beginning of how we can really tell our food and beverage story through our purpose and presence at Nordstrom.
You had another line too about, the difference between the retail side of the business and what you're doing in food. Do you remember how you said that? I don't want to say it because I'd rather you say it.
So there's two analogies we've been using. And one is that, at Nordstrom from a retail perspective is the story that I'm trying to tell is, hey, we do a great job of making people look good. We want to do a great job of making people feel good. You put clothes on people, you put accessories on them. We want to take our food and beverage and our purpose and presence, put it in them. So we're really trying to be able to tell that story to say, hey, we can do both. You can have, a great, fish and chips here and go buy $1,000 handbag. We're okay with that, or have a perfectly baked, smoked salmon with Asian pears and edamame and ginger sesame vinaigrette and go buy a $750 dress or a $50 top. It's okay.
I love that. I think that's so perfect. Hey, we've got a short video of you that ASMI did. I guess it was part of a webinar recently. Leah, you want to talk a little bit about that and introduce the video?
Yeah, so Keith put together an awesome video for the Seafood Expo North America Reconnect, which was a virtual conference last week. Normally, we're all in Boston together at a big seafood trade show, the biggest seafood trade show in North America. Unfortunately, we had to do it virtual this year. So Keith was so kind to put together an incredible video of some really amazing Alaska seafood dishes.
So before I begin my demo, I really wanted to talk about some of the species that are in Alaska. For me, the first one is halibut here. It commands a high price tag in restaurants. The cheeks are the best part, and the bones are unbelievable for stock. So for salmon, whether it's Chinook, coho, pink, chum, or sockeye salmon, this deserves a place at every table. And then we move on to the pollock. This is really one of the most prolific species and represents the largest single harvest of fish harvested in the United States. In the apelio crab, there's two varieties. You have a snow crab and you have the beard eye, which is my favorite. The fish that I'm going to be showcasing today, which is cod. It's crispy Baja tacos. 6 pieces of the cod that are about 1.5 to 2 ounces each. Just lightly toss it. Make sure we get a good coat. We're looking to be about 350 degrees. We want to put it into the bear batter. And you want this to cook for about 3.5 minutes. Make sure that as much of the batter as possible is dripped off. It's important to get your batter really cold. Just make sure that we get it evenly brown on the other side. And the slaw is very easy. Shredded cabbage. We have our red cabbage, carrots here. We have our green onions, have some dill sprigs here that I just want to break up real quick. Our chipotle remoulade. A bit of salt, a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon, 1 lime. Warming them, steaming them, and holding them in a basket. And then what I'm going to do is just literally take these beautiful pieces of cod, take some of the bread and butter pickles with turmeric that I've done. Crispy Baja cod tacos with the chipotle remoulade slaw and fresh turmeric pickles with homemade tortillas. A Yucatan cod tostadita, a very popular dish up and down the coast of Mexico, is a miso and ancho chili glazed cod chowder.
Wow, that makes me hungry. That looks so awesome. Thanks, Keith.
Oh, thank you. That was it was fun because we really looked at Mexican being one of those flavors that are on trend and that people crave. So to find a way to introduce those flavors of, the ancho chili with the miso was really a wonderful flavor profile because you had the smokiness and that umami flavor. But I think, for the whole video was great, Kevin. I was able to demystify how easy it is to cook like cod. I put it in a pan. I got a good sear. I put a lid on it. So you do like the sear steam, and literally in three and a half minutes, it was perfect. And I think, again, for the home consumers, sometimes the hard part is that they think that cooking seafood is so hard. And I think as chefs on this webinar, our goal is to continue to try to demystify that cooking fish is not that difficult, whether it's in your restaurant or at home,
Yeah. And the videos you did, Keith, during the pandemic to help, and I know you said that both for your, not only the customers of Nordstrom, but also for your employees to help them demystify some of that and to be able to, feel comfortable cooking at home where, so many people, in the United States and around the world really had a difficult time because if they're not people that are used to cooking. And now you don't have the ability to go out. I mean, it was really a tough thing. And I think it was so cool. You guys jumped on it right away. And we're doing videos to try to help.
It helped a lot. And I think the best trend that we're all happy about is what Datassential said is 65% of people are done cooking at home and about 35% of those are completely done cooking at home. So I think when I hear that news, it's like, yes, come to us. We need the business.
That's so true. We hear that from everybody. It's like everybody's just ready to, especially in other parts of the country. Some states are more open than others, but I think that's what's happening. One little quick update, and we always end this with a video, but I want everybody to give a comment at the end here because we're at 5:00. But just as a quick update, we've been doing polls and surveys with all of you, both GCIA and ICCA, to really confirm our dates for our events coming up this year. I'll say right now that the ICCA Summit, which in the beginning seemed kind of questionable about doing it in June, and the last couple of surveys has actually looks better about doing it in June. So we're leaning that way, but I really need anybody that has a major problem, sponsor and or member that has a problem with our June dates. It's the 26th through the 29th, and the board meeting would be on the 25th. So let us know as soon as possible because we're going to set these dates here within the next few days, if not the next week. And then with the GCIA, if we do that, then we're not moving the summit to August, so that we would definitely stay with the August dates for the Cleveland connection, we call it there. And it looks like the Portland, Maine is kind of all over the board between the 2nd through the 5th or the 9th through the 12th or the 16th through the 19th. There is another event that's the 17th through 19th, many directions. So that may make us lean away from that. The 9th through the 12th dates are over a holiday. It's Columbus Day. So that may make sense to do that. But again, any feedback you can give us, you can email myself or Megan, or we use the RSVP at ICCA or GCIA is something, any of the email addresses you have. Please send us some input because we need to make these decisions pretty quick so we can start promoting and get people involved. But let's go to final comments here. So Leah, you want to say something first? We'll just kind of go around the horn here.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to this group. I'm really excited for future events. I guess the parting thoughts are, we just want to make sure that everyone knows that the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute is here to help and provide resources, whether that's consumer trend data or inspirational recipes or sustainability messaging. We've got a lot of resources to share and we want to share them. So please reach out if you have any questions or you want to work with ASMI in any way.
Awesome. Taya, your final thoughts?
Oh, I would just say I love.
Uh-oh. I think we just lost her. Oh, there you go. You're back.
I'm sorry, my connection is failing. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to participate. And I love hearing about the different recipes and the seafood trends. And I will just say one little thing, about frozen seafood. That's what I eat all winter long, is frozen seafood. As an Alaskan fisherman, that's what I eat. So
awesome. So cool. Thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll take you up on any opportunity to get on your boat one day.
We'll bleed the fish.
So Keith, you're on. What do you want to say last?
I wanted to say this is really educational for me. It never gets old, but I appreciate the fact that Kevin, that we continue to do this with ICCA. I think it's a great platform to continue to tell everyone's story during these trying times. But more importantly, what I love about Alaska seafood is outside of the 34,000 miles of beautiful coastline and fishing waters, is the fact that we have a story to tell. It's a story that I can, when you say Alaska, as said earlier, people see Alaska, they think the water, and then to be able to allow the flavor, the immunity, and the versatility of the product to speak for itself has been a big win for us. And it wasn't easy. It took, the first beginning was a little bumpy going from what we were doing. But in the end run, I think it paid off big time. And we really appreciate where we're at. And we appreciate where the product comes from and how it's processed. So thank you.
Awesome. Marie, as always, thanks for the insights. It's so, good. And it was so specific today, which is really kind of cool. And I'm anxious to see, too, that so many people are really taking seafood a lot more serious, and not only, in restaurants, but at home as well, and looking at the health benefits of that. So, yeah, your final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I would echo that. I think my thought is now is the time for fish and seafood, and Alaska seafood is unique in that it checks all the boxes of what consumers want from fish and seafood. So I'm excited to see the continued innovations. Keith, I want to try those tacos from the video. I'm craving fish tacos now.
There you go. I'll get you the recipe.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for all of our members and sponsors who are on today. Really appreciate that. Any feedback you can give us on our dates coming up, let us know. And also any topics that you would like to see on these future webinars, because we will definitely continue to do these. But with that said, we'll end with a video and go back to Mike for a video.